Have you ever looked around and felt something was off? Like the smiles weren't real, like the warmth in their words didn't quite reach their eyes. It's not paranoia, it's perception. You've spent your life believing you're liked, or at the very least, accepted. But beneath the surface, something far colder brews. Carl Jung warned us, the unconscious never lies. The resentment people carry toward you isn't always loud. It's buried, dressed in niceties, hidden in passive smiles and well-crafted compliments. And you've missed it, not because you're naive, but because you needed to believe you belonged. You needed to feel safe, but here's a quiet, piercing truth. You're more resented than you realize, not because you hurt anyone, not because you're arrogant, simply because you exist in a way that reminds people of everything they're not. Your light exposes their shadows. Your ambition disturbs their comfort. Your truth rattles the lies they tell themselves. Your presence is a mirror, and what they see in it they can't bear, so they smile but step back. They laugh but don't quite meet your eyes. The silence in the room thickens when you walk in, and deep down you feel it. Jung called this the shadow, the parts of the psyche people refuse to face. But they don't go away. Instead, they get projected onto you. Suddenly, you're the one who's too intense, too much, too ambitious. Not because it's true, but because that's easier than admitting their own mediocrity. And still, you keep offering pieces of yourself to those who can't stand your wholeness. You listen to their pain, you carry their stories, you make yourself small, and in return, they take, not in grand, obvious ways, but in small, constant withdrawals. Little jabs wrapped in jokes, jealousy coded as concern, applause that only rings out when you fail. And why? Because every time you rise, they're forced to reckon with the parts of themselves they've left to decay. Your growth is a challenge they didn't sign up for. So rather than rise with you, they try to anchor you. It's quiet, it's subtle, but it's real, and worse. You keep trying to prove your worth to them. You keep shrinking, giving, pleasing, hoping they'll finally see your heart. But they don't want your heart. They want your energy, your attention, your validation. They want what you offer, not who you are. And when you stop being useful, when you stop feeding their need for distraction or comfort, watch how their affection fades. This is the hatred Jung spoke of. It doesn't shout. It pulls away. It waits silently for you to fall, because your fall would let them breathe easy again. You'll see it in the friend who ghosts you after your breakthrough, the family member who mocks your dreams, yet quietly copies your habits, the coworker who cheers your failure louder than your win. You feel it, the tension when you speak your truth, the heaviness in the air when you share your joy. They can't celebrate you, because doing so would require them to confront what they've avoided. And so you begin to wonder if you're the problem. You're not. You're the reminder. You're the mirror. You are not what they hate. You are what they fear, and there is power in that. But don't respond with noise. Don't chase understanding. Don't demand validation. Just stop, go still, observe, protect your peace like it's sacred, because it is. Stop reacting, and you reclaim everything. When you no longer bleed for those who'd watch you die quietly, you finally begin to live, fully, fearlessly, freely. When guilt no longer works on you, they lose their grip. When they can't use your empathy to manipulate you, they lose their access. When you become unpredictable, they begin to fear you, and fear always speaks louder than hate. Jung never encouraged revenge. He believed in integration. You don't have to destroy your enemies. You only need to see them clearly. So ask yourself, who drains you after every conversation? Who disappears when you succeed? Who only appears when they need something? Don't ignore the answers. Start pulling your energy back. Start feeding your soul, not their ego. Love yourself in quiet ways that don't seek applause. That's how you reclaim your power. Let them talk, let them hate, let them walk away. You're not here to heal their shadows. You're here to meet your own and rise through them. Now that you see the truth, the next step is yours. This was never about revenge. It's about seeing clearly. And clarity is the birthplace of freedom. You may think people see you clearly, but they don't. They see you through the distorted filter of their own unresolved mind. Carl Jung called this projection, the act of casting the hidden parts of themselves onto others. And the darker their shadow, the more violently they project it. Someone who despises their own weakness won't admit it. They'll accuse you of arrogance. Someone who avoids discipline will resent yours. Someone who stays stagnant will mock your ambition. You're not the problem, you're the mirror, and it's easier to shatter the mirror than face what's reflected inside. Jung once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." But most people aren't ready for that understanding. They'd rather stay blind. So when they see your strength, they won't admire it. They'll attack it. They'll say, "Who does he think he is?" And that's where envy enters, a silent venom. Jealousy wants what you have. Envy wants to see it taken away. The envious person isn't content with more. They're only satisfied when you have less. Less joy, less confidence, less recognition. They won't confront you directly. They'll chip away at you with sarcasm, veiled questions, silence when you succeed, and joy when you fail. It's not random. It's not accidental. It's the shadow at work. They can't deal with their own darkness, so they hand it to you. You become their emotional landfill, but Jung warned of something even deeper. You have a shadow too, and if you're not aware of it, you'll start doing the same thing. You'll project, you'll blame, you'll lash out. You'll become what you hate. That's why awareness is everything. Shadow work isn't about perfection. It's about honesty. The kind of honesty that says, yes, I've envied. Yes, I've projected. Yes, I've hidden behind a mask. That's the doorway to real power. When you stop outsourcing your pain and face your inner chaos. Because once you do that, no one can weaponize it against you. You'll know someone hasn't integrated their shadow when they overreact to small things, when they preach values they never live by, when they criticize what they secretly desire. They're drowning in denial. And you become the target for everything they refuse to face in themselves. But once you see the pattern, you stop taking it personally. You stop trying to be liked. You stop explaining yourself. Because the truth Jung understood is this: they don't hate you. They hate the reflection of themselves they see in you. And when you stop absorbing their projections, when you hold up the mirror and remain still, you win. Not through dominance, but through clarity. You're not here to fix their shadows. You're here to own yours so they can't be used against you. That's where true strength begins. And now, it's time to talk about how to protect that strength. Understanding projection is just step one. Now comes the real work, learning to guard your energy and respond with silence. Let's be clear, you will never erase hate from the world, not all of it, not even if you're perfect. Even saints are hated, even silence is misinterpreted. So stop trying to be agreeable enough or humble enough to avoid it. You can't, but you can do something more powerful. You can use it. Hate is energy, raw, obsessive emotional energy. And where energy goes, attention follows. Most people shrink under that spotlight. They start doubting themselves, they fold. But if you remain grounded, if you think like a strategist, hate becomes a tool. It reveals who you've become. It exposes the impact you're having. No one hates a ghost. They hate the one who is shaking their comfort zone. Jung said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. So when you're hated, you've touched something real. You've stirred what they buried. That's not a loss. That's confirmation. You've become visible. You've become undeniable. The next step is simple. Stop reacting emotionally. This is where most people fall apart. They meet hate with panic, with explanations, with frantic apologies and exhausting overcorrections. but not you. You don't react. You don't even flinch, because when you stop reacting, you sever their power. Haters survive on your response. Your reaction validates them. It keeps their illusion alive, but silence cuts deeper. It makes them nervous. It forces them into self-reflection. It makes them wonder what you see that they don't. It creates respect in the place they intended to plant fear. That's the shift. You don't rise by arguing. You rise by not needing to. And then you flip their energy. You use their hate as fuel. While most crumble under criticism, the sharp-minded convert it. Turn their insults into insight. Turn rejection into redirection. Every time they mock you, doubt you, try to humiliate you, write it down. Keep a record. Call it proof that you matter, because it is. Their hate is evidence. Evidence that you're hitting a nerve, that you're moving while they're stagnant, that your presence reveals something they'd rather not see. Let their negativity fund your focus. Let their disbelief sharpen your edge. This isn't revenge. This is alchemy. You're turning poison into power, and while they talk, you build, quietly, steadily, without applause. You don't post, you don't explain, you don't announce. You build in silence and strike with results. While they're busy dissecting your name, you're perfecting your craft. And when it's time, you won't say a word. Your progress will speak. Your presence will be louder than any defense. And that's the greatest sting of all, success without explanation. But to sustain it, you must guard your energy like currency. Your time, your attention, your emotion. They're expensive. Act like it. Stop explaining yourself to people who never listen. Stop proving yourself to those who never asked about your pain. Stop bleeding energy for those who only show up to take. Instead, conserve. Observe more. Speak less. Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Let them drift in unconscious cycles. You stay sharp. Their hate becomes your compass. Their envy becomes your map. And your silence becomes your shield. So here's your new philosophy. Let them hate. Let them speculate. Let them plot. You don't move. You don't waver. You don't explain. You remain still, focused, calculating. You're not here to be liked. You're here to be undeniable. And when hate meets someone who refuses to bend, it dies in silence. Now let's talk about how to live like that every day. With no apology, no fear, only mastery. Not all silence is weakness. In fact, sometimes silence is the sharpest blade in the room. The world tells you to speak up, to defend your worth, to explain your path. But every time you try to convince someone who's already chosen to misunderstand you, you hand them your power. Jung understood this. Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people. And silence, strategic, deliberate silence, is how that knowledge becomes control, because silence isn't emptiness. When done right, it's full, it holds power, it holds tension, it holds truth, and it's terrifying to people who thrive on chaos. Silence is a shield. Not every insult deserves an answer. Not every slight deserves your voice. When you speak, you expend energy. When you stay silent, they do. They spiral, they obsess, they project, because the unknown is threatening. And when you offer nothing to hold onto, no reaction to twist, no weakness to exploit, you become unreadable. And unreadable people are powerful. They don't know where you stand. They don't know what you'll do. They don't even know if you care. That uncertainty becomes your psychological armor. That's power, without a word spoken. And then, silence becomes a filter. Go quiet. Watch who notices. Watch who reaches out. Watch who starts rumors because they can't sit with the unknown. Silence reveals who's rooted and who's opportunistic, who's loyal and who's only around when you're speaking their language. People addicted to noise, to validation, to reassurance. They're not ready for depth. and your growth will always distance you from shallow minds. Jung understood that solitude wasn't just stillness, it was transformation, and silence creates that space to reflect, to understand, to choose wisely. So next time you feel pressure to explain, pause. That pressure is the test, and silence is how you pass it. Then comes the most brutal form of silence. Silence as a weapon. No warnings, no arguments. You simply go quiet. And for the manipulator, that silence is suffocating. For the narcissist, it's exposure. For the fake friend, it's proof. Because without your emotional labor, the dynamic collapses. Without your energy, their mask falls apart. And that's why they fear your silence. It removes their oxygen. They want drama. You give them stillness. They want chaos. You give them calm. They want war. You give them nothing. And in that nothing they unravel. Jung said, what you deny controls you. So when you deny the urge to react, to lash out, to prove yourself, you remain in control, not them. Silence isn't surrender, it's strategy. It doesn't mean you've let it go. It means you've let them go, without giving them the satisfaction of knowing what's next. And that's the final level of power. Let them wonder, let them talk, let them choke on their own assumptions. Strategic silence is a mirror, and when you hold it up, people are forced to face themselves. When you stop justifying, they start questioning. When you stop speaking, they hear their own thoughts louder. And most can't stand the sound. You don't have to call them out or shame them. You just hold the mirror and step back. In that silence, they meet their shadow. Some will run, some will break, a few will awaken. But that's not your responsibility. You're not here to save anyone. You're here to master yourself. Silence is discipline. It's not easy, especially when your ego is bruised, when you want to be understood, when you want to clap back. But that's the whole point. Silence forces you to master your own reactions. It teaches you that your emotions don't belong to them. They're yours to control. You can feel everything and still say nothing. You can feel anger and choose calm. You can feel disrespected and offer no explanation. That's strength. Not loud strength, not dramatic strength. Quiet, unmistakable strength. The kind people can sense even when you're saying nothing at all. Start practicing it. When someone mocks your path, stay silent. When someone misrepresents you, stay silent. When someone tries to drag you into drama, stay silent. When someone doesn't deserve emotional access, stay silent. And when they ask why you're so quiet, smile, not out of politeness, but because deep down they already know. You see something they don't. You've reached a level they're not ready for. Once you master silence, you become unreadable, and unreadable people are unstoppable. Carl Jung said the greatest burden we carry is the refusal to confront our own unconscious. But you've already gone there. You've stared into your darkness and chose not to scream, not to plead, not to perform. You chose stillness, strategic silence, and in doing that, you became dangerous, not because you speak loudly, but because you don't need to. Now you're ready for the final shift, walking through the world with power, not permission. Let's stop pretending. Most people don't want truth. They want comfort, validation, and soft lies to protect fragile egos. But you didn't come here for that. You came for clarity, even if it hurts, even if it burns, even if it changes everything, because the truth is, you were never meant to be liked by everyone. You were meant to be clear. Awake, dangerous in your awareness. That's why they hate you, not because you're wrong, but because you're no longer asleep like them. The second you saw through the masks, the fake smiles, the empty praise, the quiet envy, they felt it. And they panicked, because when one person wakes up, everyone else is left without an excuse to keep sleeping. Jung warned, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. You've seen it. You've lived it. Every wave of judgment, every sideways glance, every attempt to box you in. It wasn't about hate. It was about fear. Fear that you've become what they refuse to become. So now what? You rise anyway. You stop explaining, you stop softening, you stop hiding, you walk forward with open eyes, a guarded heart, and a sharpened mind. You own your pain, you carry your shadow, you protect your peace, and you don't apologize for it. The world will keep telling you to tone it down, to be more agreeable, to make yourself smaller. But that's not advice, that's a muzzle, a leash, a way to keep the powerful tame. Let them call you arrogant. Let them say you changed. You did. You stopped leaking light for people who never deserved your warmth. That's not arrogance. That's awareness. And deep down, they know it. They don't want you small for your sake. They want you small so they don't feel exposed standing next to you. But that era is over. No more shrinking to make others comfortable. No more lowering your standards for peace. No more exhausting explanations for people determined to misunderstand you. Now is your moment. You choose, live a life of quiet suppression and be hated anyway for the version of you they made up, or step into your full truth and be hated for the person you actually are. Either way, the judgment is coming. So make it count. Here's your move. Take inventory of your life. Who fuels you, who drains you, act accordingly. Cut access where necessary. Stop defending a path they were never meant to understand. Move like someone who doesn't need permission. Stay silent when you need to observe. Speak only when your words cut through noise like truth through fog. Hold your vision tighter than their opinions. You're not here to please them. You're here to outgrow them. The world doesn't need more likable people. It needs clear ones, grounded ones, people who have met their pain and transmuted it into power. People who faced the hate and used it as fire, so burn brighter, not out of vengeance, but out of clarity, not to prove them wrong, but to prove yourself right. You owe no one an apology for evolving. You owe no one softness at the cost of your strength. You were never too much. They were never enough. Now walk away, not with bitterness, not with rage. Walk away in silence and let your life become so loud they can't pretend they don't hear it. This is the end of the lies. This is the beginning of your power. Go live it.